Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the Sipping Tea, and today I have a tank review video for you of the Cold War Centennial Chieftain T95-59. Briefly however, before I get into that, I just wish to issue a huge thanks to my patrons, NB Hollywood, Niagara898 and TankerTuff66. Thank you all ever so much for your continued support. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. So first of all, I just wish to make very clear that this is the Era 1 Cold War Heavy Centennial Chieftain T95-59, so that is the 59 variant. There is a Tier 8 Medium in World War II. That is not what this video is about. So, just making sure that that is nice and clear, let's get into the basic stats of this tank, starting with the battle earn rates and cost. Starting with the cost, I think. So the gold cost of the Centennial is 9,000, which isn't too bad. I mean, I have that sort of self-imposed limit of around 10,000 gold, so 9,000, you know, comfortably fits within that limit. The battle earn rates. So starting with the silver, you get an extra 50% bonus. Silver earn rate followed by a 25% tank XP earn rate bonus and a 10% crew XP earn rate bonus. Moving on from there, let's now take a look at the gun statistics, starting with the penetration. So the penetration value of the standard rounds is 262mm, followed by 304mm for the premium rounds, both of which will do 280 damage, which I must say is a little bit on the low side in my opinion. The rate of fire in its standard sort of setting, so no influencing factors, is 8.82 rounds per minute, which again is, well, it's not too bad. The fire rate is relatively quick. It has a 6.8 second reload time, a 1.8 second aim time, and an accuracy of 0.3. Gun depression comes in at 10 degrees and gun elevation comes in at 20 degrees, so a very standard British loadout right there regarding the gun depression and elevation. Now taking a look at the engine, you'll have a maximum forward speed of 45.2 kilometers an hour and 15.2 kilometers an hour in reverse. The power to weight ratio of this tank is 14.61 horsepower per ton, with an engine horsepower of 750, and the fire chance is 10%. From there, you'll be able to see from the little cheat sheet that I've had on screen what the vision range and the still concealment range are on this tank, as I have it in my garage. The HP on the tank comes in at 2,200, which does make it, I think, a little bit on the low side. I know it's an Era 1, but it is a heavy after all, and it's quite a slow heavy at that, without a huge amount of damage coming out of that gun per shot. So I think 2,200 perhaps is a little bit on the low side, and maybe it could do with just a little bit more on its side in that regard. Moving on from there, let's now talk equipment and consumables, starting with the consumables. I know you can see it in the game, of course, but nonetheless, we have the premium repair kit, the standard med kit, and of course the standard fire extinguisher. Of course, the reasons for having this particular loadout is probably quite clear at this point. It's what I've always referred to as the Holy Trinity regarding consumables. So the premium repair kit, naturally, of course, I want to have the passive sort of repair effects from that, and also I want to be able to quickly, let's say for instance, put my tracks back on the tank if they find themselves in their natural habitat, which is of course on the ground, fallen off the tank, and not have to worry about whether or not I'll be able to then repair a ammo rack, for instance, if that gets damaged. So having multiple uses of that really does come in very handy. The med kit, now this is something that is also it's a piece of equipment that you could, or consumables that you could really perhaps do without. It's not strictly necessary, but of course in a tank that is this slow and not particularly mobile, if the driver were to die, I really would be kicking myself for not having a med kit. And of course with the gun also not being particularly good, rather low on the damage side of things, I wouldn't really wish to lose my gunner either, as that really would make a tank that is somewhat underwhelming even more of a tragedy to play. The fire extinguisher really does speak for itself at this point. You know as well as I do that I have a bit of an obsession with the fire extinguishers. I may sleep with one at night instead of a blankie, you don't know. That's my secret that I shall take to the grave. But it's a British tank, it does enjoy catching fire, a 10% fire chance is standard, so yeah, I take a fire extinguisher just to err on the side of caution. From there, let's talk equipment. So you'll see from the little graphic on the screen just here that I am running the vents, advanced loader and gun stabilizer. I would say the gun stabilizer does offer that additional accuracy that this tank really is crying out for, with only a 0.3 base accuracy on the gun, along with the appropriate crew skills, which obviously I'll cover in just a moment. Really, I feel that the underwhelming part of this tank is the gun, the lack of damage that it throws out. I must confess that while I am by no means the best tanker out there, not by any measure at all, I think that's been quite plain to see over my various videos over these past few months, but I would say that the gun that really only does sort of an average of 280 damage, it's a bit underwhelming, quite honestly. I don't particularly like this tank because of the gun. That's sort of a quick look into what will be the conclusion of this tank, but yeah, that's why I run the gun stabilizer on this particular tank, just to give it a little bit more accuracy so that I increase my chances of actually being able to pen the enemy. The advanced loader, of course, that somewhat speaks for itself as per usual. It's a case of let's get as many rounds downfield as possible, as fast as possible, and of course the vents are only going to be complementing that as well. So moving on from there, we now have the armor viewing section of the video. So the Centennial does have quite a lot of spaced armor, which is what makes it so incredibly effective on the battlefield. The fact that it can actually bounce or otherwise absorb quite a lot of incoming damage. So some of these will be relatively small, so I'll probably just gloss over those to not bog down the section. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So at 6mm, we have the side skirts and mud flaps around the sides of the tank. 8mm is some spaced armor in form of sandbags around the front, rear and side of the turret. There's a few little baskets around the turret there, small module at the back. 17mm is what you get for the entirety of the underside of the hull and just above the tracks. 19mm is the entirety of the engine deck. A few sort of smatterings of thin armor on the turret just there. 25mm is what you get for the tracks. 25.4mm is what you get for the very rear of the tank. 35mm is what you get for the gun. 38mm is the inner hull and turret ring. 40mm is a very sort of orbital thin strip around the top of the main hull. 50mm is some rear side skirts and the rear of the turret. 63mm is some spaced armor around the turret. 76mm is the lower plate at the front of the tank. 85mm is the upper plate of the tank and also a couple of little small parts to the side of the hull. 88mm is more spaced armor around the turret. 101mm is yet more little nodules of the turret. 114mm is yet more little segments on the turret and a little bit of the main hull. 127mm is the start of the mosaic of the frontal part of the armor. 139mm is yet more of the front turret just there. 152mm is what you get for the Commander's cupola and also some more of that turret mosaic. 154mm is part of the gun mantlet. 165mm is the very frontal part of the turret, alongside a bit more of the gun mantlet and some more sort of armour around near viewports. 254mm is once again part of the mosaic of the front of the turret and around the gun mantlet. 355mm is the turret ring protection. And finally, a very small section just by the barrel of the gun there at 381mm. So moving on from the armour to the commander skills. So as you can see from the little graphic that I've got here on the screen, I do have a hero commander in this tank, as I do use it as a crew training tank, much like most of my Cold War tanks. I tend to play them most, so I tend to use them all as crew trainers. So the skills that I have on this one are Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Steady Aim, Rapid Loading, Snapshot, and Rapid Aim. So my main sort of effort here really is to try and improve the DPM and the overall accuracy of this tank as much as possible, which tends to be, of course, the main goal of any tank really. But the Centennial, because of its really poor shell damage, I've really tried to make up for it as best as I can by minimizing the reload time. There could well be a point in the future where I actually get rid of the medkit and replace it with rations to boost that reload just a little bit further, because once again I feel like this tank really does suffer from a lack of DPM. So to round things off and conclude things, I would say that the Centennial as an Era 1 tank is nothing that really stands out too much. The armour is pretty decent, but as I've really made not too subtle suggestion throughout the entirety of this video, the gun really does seem to let it down. Ordinarily it could be forgiven if it had just a little bit more power to it, but it's just not enough damage in my opinion, especially for a tank that I think really should be classed as a medium, just like it is in World War II in Tier 8. But here it's a heavy with 2200 HP, which again I don't think is quite enough HP considering it's a heavy that is also quite slow. Yeah, all in all I would say that for 9,000 gold I'm not sure if it's really going to be worth it. If you're going to get this tank, I would suggest that you should really wait for it to go half price or something like that. Maybe it'll be one of the personal offers in the coming sort of weeks or so, something like that. But that's really the only time that I would suggest that you really ought to consider going for this tank, because otherwise I'm afraid it is just a little bit too lackluster. The bonus info, or the bonus earn rates as well, are not particularly special. It's just got a 50% silver earn rate, as I mentioned at the start of the video, so it's not like this is going to be really printing that cash like like it's something special. I mean, there's plenty of tanks out there that even if they share the same earn rate for silver, they do significantly more damage, so you're going to earn more silver in those tanks. I suppose one of the main reasons why I got it, because you may be wondering if I'm sort of trash talking it so much, why have I got it? And that the simple reason is that I wanted a tank in Era 1 that was a premium tank and a heavy. I just didn't have any at the time, so that's the reason why I went for it. It was at a reduced price as well when I purchased it. So yeah, if you're going to go for it, I'd urge you to, like I said, aim for some sort of decent sale, at least 50% off the tank really, because otherwise I think it's just going to be a little bit too much to justify in my opinion. But there we are, that is the review of the Cold War Centennial. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. I just want to issue a huge thanks once again to my patrons, NB Hollywood, Niagara 898 and TankerTough66. Thank you all ever so much for your continued support. Please do leave a comment below if you have any thoughts about this video or others. Then please do share your thoughts and opinions. I'm always looking to tweak and adjust my style, just depending on what you guys would want. I've already read some comments from last week's video, and I've tried to take those on board and alter things ever so slightly here. The main difference being the volume of the music to the volume of the commentary. I'm keeping a closer eye on that. It can be quite difficult to judge when editing on a PC, so hopefully that is now a little bit better than it was, and indeed going forwards. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, then please do hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell, just so you know whenever a video goes live. But of course, I do upload 3 times a week, every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday, so you know that on those days you're going to see a video from me on this channel. Once again, thank you all ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.